Guys, I want you to remember before we get started that we are sponsored by SeatGeek. Yes, SeatGeek is now officially sponsoring three bold takes. Guys, we are so glad to let you know that with your first purchase with SeatGeek, you get $20 off using our code three bold takes. SeatGeek's perfect for any kind of live events, whether that's sports, entertainment like music, or even like local plays that you would want to go to. I use them for every sporting event I've gone to. I've never been disappointed. They give me great information on the tickets, whether it's a good price or not, before I ever purchase it. It is the only way that I buy tickets. So, guys, remember, use SeatGeek. Our code three bold takes get $20 off your first purchase. All right, guys, we're going to kick predictions off this week, starting down in New Orleans for Tulane versus Memphis. Massive implications for the American Conference at hand on this Thanksgiving night game. Spreads opening at Tulane, favored by 13 points over the Tigers. Guys, how are you feeling about this one?
I'll just go ahead and say it. I've got Tulane. I think they're going to win this game. Listen, Memphis is one of those teams that earlier in the year when they beat Florida State, people were like, "Oh my God, Memphis is going to be the greatest Group of Five team of all time." And now we know what Florida State is. So it didn't look as impressive then. Now they are 9-2 overall, 5-2 in the conference though. Obviously, with this being Tulane's last game of the year, um, an upset here for Memphis would be huge on multiple levels. Tulane is still alive in the college football playoff race, obviously as well as the American Conference, but I don't see that happening. They're getting them at home. Um, they've had a great year. One of Tulane's losses was to Ole Miss, I think, right? Early in the year, which is a good loss for a team like Tulane. It wasn't as close as the Boise State Oregon game, but it was still a good game. But Tulane's winning this game. I really don't think it'll be close. I think they cover the 13 and a half.
Yeah. So Tulane played Ole Miss last year, Freddie. The one you're thinking of is Oklahoma.
That's
They
right.
lost back to back, Kansas State, Oklahoma, and that's what kind of sucks about these Group of Five teams is this is a really good schedule for Tulane. And yeah, they have two losses, but it's by a combined 19 points, two Power Five teams, and two or a Big 12 and an SEC team. Like just think about that. A combined 19 points to those two teams, and now you're hurting yourself. You're sitting behind Boise State. You're sitting behind Army, teams like that, who Army just suffered their first loss through can you say Power Five? Basically, a Power Five team in Notre Dame. Anyway, I like Tulane in this game as well. Tulane is a very, very strong team, as I just mentioned. They play really good ball. John Summerall, man, did we not nail this one on the head in the offseason saying how well he was going to do at Tulane? And he's probably going to have them in the hunt for Group of Five bid. And he still does. It's going to be really hard unless Boise State slips up here and Tulane just really wins out. But I think Tulane's got this game down. Memphis, still a great season. Let's not overlook that. I know this spread makes it look like 13 point, like Memphis is just bad. No, they're a really good team as well. They've just also have messed up in their Group of Five play, losing to UTSA and teams like that. You can't do that when you're supposed to be a Power Five or not Power Five, a Group of Five lock for the playoffs. You got to beat those teams and only lose to the big games that you play on your schedule. And for Memphis this season, you beat the big team on your schedule in Florida State. Regardless, both great seasons. I think Tulane pulls this one out. Quinn?
Yeah, I have no questions. I'm going Tulane as well. And a lot of it has to do with John Summerall. I mean, he showed up at Troy, absolutely dominated the Sun Belt during his time down at Troy. And I expected him to do the exact same stuff with Tulane. And here we are. We're sitting at the end of the year. They got two losses early in the year to a fringe Big 12 championship contender in Kansas State and a bowl eligible SEC team in Oklahoma. Those are very good losses if you're a G5 program. I expect them to dominate Memphis in this game. There's too much on the line with the home field advantage added into it that I just don't see a world where Memphis gets out of New Orleans with this win. Massive for them if they could and get them another double-digit win season, but only one of these teams has shown to me that they're capable of losing to equivalent competition, and that team is Memphis, not Tulane. So give me the green wave to get it done. Guys, thank you for checking out this video on Memphis and Tulane. We got more predictions coming just like this one for multiple rivalry games throughout Rivalry Week. Remember, we are sponsored by SeatGeek. Use our code 3BoldTakes. Get $20 off your first purchase in the app with our code. And that being said, I'm Quinn. I'm logging off, and I'm sure Freddie and Chase are right here behind me.
Welcome on in, guys. So today we're talking about Oregon State and Boise State, man. It is Thanksgiving week, of course, a Black Friday special here. And as always, on sale is Boise State at 18.5 points for this game, which is insane to me. You know, they're talking about discounts right now. Boise State is not giving out any for this game on Friday night. Over under 55.5 on this game. And I'm kind of appalled by this line. 18.5 points for Boise State, who just escaped Wyoming 17-13 just this past weekend. I don't even know what to think. Quinn, I would love to hear what you think, so maybe I can model my opinion after yours.
Look, I think 18.5 is a little crazy. I think they're betting on people going, oh, Boise State's playoff team. They're going to hang this high number. Oregon State's had some rough games. They've looked bad. It's not going to be an 18.5 point game. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there right now. The game's going to be competitive for a while. It's going to be close, but I still like Boise State to pull away by about 8 or 9 points. I think they're a more talented team than Oregon State this year. Frankly, I think Oregon State's roster is not really even a P4 roster anymore. I think we're dealing with a high-end G5 roster at Oregon State. They definitely got hurt a lot more by this Pac-12 implosion than Washington State did as of year one. Both teams long-term, though, are going to stand to suffer, I think. But as far as this specific game, I think Boise State knows what the mission is, and that is get through this Oregon State game, then go and dominate in the Mountain West Conference Championship game, and then boom, you're right there in the college football playoff. There's not a single team that's going to pass you if you can win out. You are the only G5 team in the country who controls their destiny to get to the college football playoff. Now, does that mean you're going to have to go on the road to the runner-up in the Big Ten right off the bat? Possibly, unless some crazy stuff can happen down in the Big 12, and then maybe you got yourself a bye. So we'll keep that door open for now, that there is a chance Boise State ends up at the 4 seed. I don't think people have really grasped with that yet, but it's a possibility. But the more than likely outcome is they're going to be the 12 seed in the college football playoff. So look, again, they have a lot more to play for at this point in the season than Oregon State does. I think the home field advantage is going to come in big for them. The Friday night atmosphere, the Boise crowd is going to be electric. This team has a chance to reassert itself. They only made the New Year's Six once during the one G5 teams guaranteed a New Year's Six spot. They were the first team to do it, and they beat Arizona in the Fiesta Bowl. Boise State kind of has a reputation for reminding you that they are the face of G5 football, and I think they reassert that this season, and it's going to be finished up in the regular season with a win over Oregon State.
Yeah, I think Boise's going to win this game. So this game is at 11 o'clock on Friday. It's supposed to be 27 degrees up there. Wow. For us down here in the South, that's freaking cold. It's not anything crazy for them though. In Idaho. I think they cover the spread. Look, Oregon State is just bad. I mean, they're 5-6, yes, but when you look at that record, you typically think, okay, they're 5-6 in Pac-12 play. False. They're 5-6 in Mountain West play, basically. And if you look at some of the common opponents here between the two, Oregon State did play San Jose State 3 weeks ago, lost 24-13. Boise played them 2 weeks ago on the road and won 42-21. You look at UNLV, right? Boise State barely escaped the win there by 5 on the road. Oregon State lost by 12 at home. I think this is not going to be a competitive game. I've got Boise State winning big. I think they make a statement here in this game. I don't think they're going to fall into the trap of, oh, this is a must win, or, oh, we're going to the playoffs, let's take a week off. I don't think that's going to happen, especially with a potential rematch against UNLV coming soon in the conference championship, a game that was very, very competitive the first time that they played. So Boise State's going to win. They're going to win big.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say as well, Boise State is my pick here. It's an easy pick, mainly because you want to see them finish this thing out. But I will say, looking at Boise State's schedule throughout the season, that it seems like they've lost a little bit of steam, or maybe the teams that they're playing are scheming a lot better. Because we mentioned Oregon State's not a great team. First off, guys, they lead the Pac-12. They're the number 1 team in the Pac-12, guys. That's all I want to say. After beating Washington State by 3, they now lead the Pac-12 with a 1-0 record in conference play. Anyway, Wyoming came into this game 2-8. Not a great team, getting blown out a lot. And it seemed like it was in Wyoming, so maybe the difference in field played a little bit of a factor because I believe Wyoming has a brown field. Am I right, Quinn? Is that
I
true?
don't do they?
Do
I'm pretty
they?
sure they
I
do.
think
Yeah.
I thought so. So maybe the blue turf was just it was warped in their mind because they had to play on brown turf, whatever it was. But Wyoming nearly pulling out that over Boise State seems like they're looking a little bit ahead. That something's going on. Whatever it is, I think Boise State still gets it done. But Genty has to have a really good game here. He's still on the cusp of a Heisman, but it looks like Travis Hunter's coming in quick for that one as well. I think they get it done. I think Oregon State plays it really close, though. The 18.5, if you're betting that number, call the gambling number, please, because I don't think that's the one you want to take. Uh, I'm not sure if Boise State beats them by more than 5 in this game. I think it's going to be a really close one. So I'll take Boise State in this one as well. And Genty, for that, guys, we are done with our Black Friday special. Uh, we hope you enjoy that game and enjoy some good food, some good leftovers on Friday as well, guys. For Chase, for Freddie, for Quinn, we're 3 bold takes. And as always, make sure to use SeatGeek because if you like Black Friday deals, what's better than a discount buying tickets as well, guys? Thank you so much for watching and salute to you.
I'm going to move on to arguably the most famous rivalry game that's not played on Saturday in college football. And that's the Egg Bowl here between Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss coming off a loss on the road to the Florida Gators, playing in that extremely hostile environment down there. Quinn, I know that just got you there. Mississippi State, obviously coming off a loss to Missouri 39-20. This game is in Oxford, 2:30 on ABC. Ole Miss is a 26.5-point favorite. Guys, if you're looking at the money line numbers, Mississippi State money line is plus 1,200. You could get rich off of that if you genuinely think that this could be an upset. I don't necessarily think it's going to be an upset, but guys, love for you guys to get into it. Chase, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking back because we choose this game. You can look at records, and if you look at records as a football fan during rivalry weekend, lock yourself in a room. Don't come out for a long time because you'll never understand this weekend at all. We're going to talk the Iron Bowl. We're going to talk the game. We're going to talk a lot of these, and you're going to be like, man, these games suck. They don't. And this is the epitome of these games. The Egg Bowl is one of the nastiest, drunkest football games that you're going to watch all season long. And the records are not going to tell you how good each team is. Ole Miss could be ranked number 1, and Mississippi State could be the dead last team in the nation, and somehow Mississippi State might pull out this game or lose by a point. That's how this game works, and it's just so much fun to watch. There is just so much weird stuff that goes on in the state of Mississippi. Voodoo Mama Juju, whatever you want to conjure up, it is in this game here, and I love watching it. This season has not gone up to the Bulldog standards. And Jeff Levy, you hire a coach first year, think your offense is going to be on a go. It just wasn't. You didn't have people in place, anything in place. You still played tough, I think. I mean, you played Florida tough. You played Georgia really tough. You played Texas A&M tough. But at the end of the day, you still lost by double digits in almost all those games. Can you make a statement at the end of the season? No, you can't. It's not going to happen with Ole Miss. However, I'm not going to be surprised if Ole Miss wins like 13-10 here. Ole Miss has been reeling. They've lost a couple games they shouldn't have. They finally hit the peak of, we just beat Georgia. Oh my gosh, it's Lane Kiffin's signature win. And it is. Congrats. But the entire season is a waste now because you've lost games that you shouldn't have lost to opponents you shouldn't have lost. You shouldn't have lost to Florida. You should not have. But you were up on a high pedestal thinking, okay, we're going to be in the SEC championship game. I don't want to play in that. And then you screwed yourself because you were looking over Florida. Here's another one. For Ole Miss, honestly, your season is gone because you're probably not going to be in the playoffs. You're not going to be playing for a national championship. Mississippi State as well. You can even hurt Ole Miss even more, which is just fun to do. I'm going to go Ole Miss. No more than 3 for me, though, guys. I'm staying there. I'm going to take Lane Kiffin and the boys at home, though.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for me to pick Mississippi State. Chase, you brought up a good point. The Egg Bowl is always like just a sloppy, drunken knife fight on Thanksgiving night that everybody watches and has a great time, like as the Mississippians just bully each other for 60 minutes. But like, and I've seen some crazy losses. Like some crazy losses in the Egg Bowl, especially like Dak Prescott and Mississippi State. They would lose to like average Ole Miss teams. Um, but I can't pick a Mississippi State team who's lost pretty much every SEC game by double digits to beat Ole Miss. I just can't. Like that would be Ole Miss has some bad losses this year. In fact, none of their losses are quote unquote good teams. None of them are. Like LSU's the best loss, and they're a 7-4 football team. Um, this would be otherworldly bad if they dropped this one. I do think State will cover the spread, though. I think 26.5 is way too high for a rivalry game. I don't care that it's on the road. It is super rare to see a rivalry game end by that many points, that large of a margin. Um, about the only recent rivalry game I can think of that ends like that often is clean old fashioned hate between Georgia and Georgia Tech. And even that game was close last year. So, yeah, give me Ole Miss. I'm gonna say 29-13. I like the Rebels 29-13 over the Bulldogs. I think they're going to struggle offensively. I think Mississippi State's going to be scrappy, but I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss is going to win as well. But I want to point out one thing. This spread at 26.5 is crazy. And you may think, yeah, Mississippi State sucks. They're 0-9 in the SEC, or 0-8 in the SEC, 0-7. They're 2-9 overall. But when you look at their losses, they've only had 2 games where they've been beaten by more than 25 points all year. And guess who they were too? Can you take a guess? Toledo, number 1. They lost 41-17 to Toledo. And then the other one was Arkansas, 58-25. All of their other losses, especially against ranked teams, Texas, Georgia, Texas A&M, and Tennessee, were all less than 20-point losses. With that in mind, I think Ole Miss is by far going to win this game, but give me Mississippi State in the points if you're a betting man, to definitely cover the spread. I think it's ridiculous, the 26.5.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game is always a ton of fun every year. So I appreciate you guys watching this video talking about the Egg Bowl. Hoping for another good Egg Bowl. It's always fun and exciting. Hope you guys enjoy your Thanksgiving this week. Spend times with friends and family. And we will see you guys next week for Conference Championship talk. I appreciate you guys watching.
Welcome on in, guys. Man, this one takes the cake. Alabama guys on this podcast here, of course. And so we have to talk the Iron Bowl. We do not walk away from rivalry weekend without talking the Iron Bowl. This was one of my favorites. I've grown up on this game for so long. This is just another fun one this season. And it looks like Auburn is finally hitting a stride here late in the year going into Tuscaloosa, a 2:30 kick. 11.5-point favorite is the Crimson Tide. 52.5 over under for it. Man, Peyton Thorne against Jalen Milroe. Brady, we're going to hit you first, man.
Man, I'm going to be honest. The safe bet in this game is the under, the 52.5, I think. After an absolutely abysmal performance by Alabama's offense against Oklahoma, I'm not going to fault the defense too much. They were put in a lot of short field situations, and 7 of those 24 was a pick 6. So really, you're looking at maybe 10 points that the defense gave up. Yes, Oklahoma ran it down their throat, but it was almost a bend, don't break kind of defense, which it's been like that all year, it seems like. If you look at Vandy, you look at Tennessee, they've been able to run the football against Alabama. And I think Auburn's going to try the same thing. Peyton Thorne is not known as a great passer of the football, but I saw him make some plays against Texas A&M over the weekend with his legs that scares me as an Alabama fan, and should scare a lot of Alabama fans. He's scrappy. He's probably going to make some mistakes throwing the ball. And those are mistakes that Bama normally capitalizes on. They were unable to do that in the 1 turnover against Oklahoma. Man, 11.5 points. Bama's at home. Typically the team playing at home normally wins this game. It's an incredibly hostile environment no matter where you play. I think it helps Auburn that it's at 2:30 and not at 6:30 tremendously, and it's not a night game. You don't have the all-day anticipation waiting for the game, and then obviously what comes with a night game. The environment's crazy, the lights, all that stuff, the entire world watching. This game being at 2:30 feels like it's not prime time anymore, which because it's on ESPN or ABC, it's not technically their prime time. I think Bama wins, but let me tell you, I am not at all confident in saying that. If there's any year that I think Alabama as being, you know, a clear double digit favorite in this game can get beat, I think it's this year. It's DeBoer's first Iron Bowl, right? This is the first time that Bama's lost 3 games in the regular season since 2010. Um, so there's a lot different now than in previous years. So I don't really want to look at previous years and how these 2 games are played, different head coaches, things of that nature. But I think Bama wins a close one. I'm going to go by 2 points. I think Auburn misses a game-winning field goal at the end.
Yeah, going into this, when I was being asked about the Iron Bowl 2 weeks ago, I said there's no shot for Auburn. And a below 500 Auburn team coming into Tuscaloosa against an Alabama team that's on the verge of a playoff run, that's never really gone well for Auburn, period. But now you're dealing with an Alabama team that's reeling after an embarrassing 24-3 defeat in Norman, Oklahoma, and an Auburn team that is soaring with a potential ability to win this game and become bowl eligible, which is massive for a team like Auburn, a team full of young starters who could use those extra weeks of practice that they get with bowl season for 2025. It's all kind of lining up. I'm going Auburn to win the Iron Bowl this year. I think we've got an Alabama team that's reeling, that has now lost the season officially. I mean, there's probably some weird scenario where they make the playoffs as a 3-loss team, but it's highly unlikely. Meanwhile, you got an Auburn team that's now 1 win away from bowl eligibility. They had the heartbreaking narrow defeat last year. Now, it will be a huge upset if Auburn gets this done. This Alabama team has not lost a home game all season, and they've played some pretty decent teams at home. Missouri, South Carolina come to mind right off the bat, and Georgia. So, yeah, they've played some really good home games this year. But I don't think that after what I saw on Saturday, and maybe this is a gut reaction to a 1-week thing, and I shouldn't think like this, but I just feel like Hugh Freeze is going to dial up a whole lot of trickeration out of RPOs and triple options and read options to take advantage of a young secondary on the outside, get some guys open in open field, and then just hope Keon Coleman makes some big plays off screen passes and see what happens. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to work out in Auburn's favor. And I like them to beat the Tide by less than a touchdown on the road, getting their first win in Alabama since I believe the Cam Newton comeback in 2010. So that would be a huge thing for them if they do get that done. Chase, what are you thinking?
Quinn, that's actually right. You're right on the head with the Cam Newton win there. And I'll go a step further. If you want to find an unranked Auburn team that beat a ranked Alabama team in Tuscaloosa, let's take it all the way back to 2002 when Auburn did that 17-7 against number 9 Alabama at the time. Look, Quinn's right on the money with this one. Alabama is on the cusp of falling apart. As I mentioned in the offseason, people were expecting Kalen DeBoer to step in and be better than Nick Saban already. There were going to be a lot of bumps along the way. You didn't expect those bumps to also be Vandy and nearly a loss to South Carolina and a couple of these others. You weren't expecting him to beat Georgia off the case. That's what you were expecting. Kalen DeBoer is going to lose to Georgia. He's going to lose the big games, but he's going to win everything else. He's going to be good. There's been a lot of bumps here and there. And I get on here and say it every single time we talk Alabama. Kalen DeBoer is playing with toys that are not his. Jalen Milroe does not fit this man's system. Look at the last couple quarterbacks that he's had. At Fresno State, he had Jake Haener, and at Washington, he had Michael Penix. Both of those guys can use their legs. They are pure pocket passers, though. Michael Penix was going to slice you apart for 400 or 500 yards as much as he could from the pocket. He might scramble a little bit, toss it, but he's going to be in the pocket. Jake Haener was the same way. He was a little bit of a smaller frame. Milroe is primarily a dual threat guy. He is a Lamar Jackson type, a Cam Newton type. Hey, let me get out, let me run a lot, let me use my legs. That does not fit DeBoer's system. And sad to say, like, it's not about a Ty Simpson's better, Jalen Milroe's better. No, it's just that Jalen Milroe doesn't fit this system. And that's the biggest thing about dual threat quarterbacks that I've talked about since my Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson. If you have a guy like that, you have to build your entire system around him. If you do not, you will be in trouble when it comes to offensive stuff or offensive game plans. The LSU game, he ran for 4 touchdowns. He didn't throw a single touchdown. The Mercer game, whatever, it's Mercer. But then Oklahoma, they took that entire run game away and forced him to win with his arm, and he threw nearly 2 pick sixes and definitely one of them. Oklahoma's not good offensively. Oklahoma scored what? 10 points that game, 13 points offensively that game. They're not a good team. Sorry. Anyway, Auburn seems to, though, now be hitting their stride out of freaking nowhere. Hugh Freeze, I thought was going to be really good going into the season. I thought it was going to be an 8-win season for Auburn. And then he just said, hey, you know what? My players suck, and didn't take any accountability until the last, 2 weeks, apparently. And now they just beat Texas A&M in a 4-overtime game. Man, I'm really struggling with this one as well. But I'm going to go with Alabama. I'm going to play it safe. I think at home, the bigger, more talented team should win this game. However, I'm not crossing out what Quinn's saying. If you have a team that is reeling like this in Alabama, first-year head coach Kalen DeBoer, you don't know how serious this rivalry is to you just yet, but the whole South is going to make you feel it. If you lose this game to Auburn, we're going to see. But I think Auburn's going to play a lot of voodoo mama juju in this one, and I think they're going to keep it close. Give me 23-20 Alabama in this game for the Iron Bowl to close it out with them. Guys, anything else on the Iron Bowl before we get off of it? Guys, a Saturday 2:30 kick. We hope you have fun watching it. One of the best ones. I think easily a top 2 rivalry game weekend this year. We're super excited for 3 bold takes. It's been Quinn. It's been Chase. It's been Freddie.
Guys, we're moving on to, I want to say, probably top 5 hatest rivalries between the two teams, I would say, and it's South Carolina and Clemson. Now, these two universities play in what's called the Palmetto Series between the two universities. All of their sports combined each year will create a win-loss record between the two, and then a trophy is distributed at the end of the year to one of the teams. This game specifically is deemed the Palmetto Bowl. Fun fact for you. 2020, the COVID year, ruined a lot of things. One of the things it ruined was this game streak of 111 years straight. They played this game up until 2020. Sad day.
That's wild.
Sad day. But when you come and look at this game heading into 2024 now, you've got South Carolina sitting at 8-3, currently ranked 18th in the AP poll. Playoff poll probably going to be a tad bit higher than that. Clemson 17 in the AP, probably a tad bit higher than that in the playoff poll. The spread here, now Clemson's at home. Spread here is 2.5. Now that tells me one thing. This is a pick'em game in the eyes of Vegas because typically home field advantage is 2.5 to 3 points. So this is just a pick'em game. So I'm curious, Quinn, I want you to go first in this game. What are your thoughts here?
Absolutely. I told you back in November, we were a month off and we were starting Cockvember. And I told you they were going to beat up Vandy. They were going to beat up A&M. They were going to go all the way, winning every single game in November. And here we are. Cockvember is in full throttle, and they're about to ram straight through Clemson. We're talking probably 20-point victory here for the Cocks, man. They're going to absolutely dominate Dabo Swinney and the Tigers. Every major game I've seen Dabo get in, Clemson has been outclassed. And this team in South Carolina under Shane Beamer has turned things around into the November month. He's doing classic Shane Beamer stuff where he looks like a below average coach. And then November comes around and he looks like he's the greatest thing ever, just to do it to you again next year. And so give me South Carolina to absolutely dominate this game, get to their bowl game. You think they're going to beat some random school like, I don't know, like a Texas Tech, and they're going to lose, but they're going to win every game in November, and it's going to end with a win here in the Palmetto Bowl. Realistically, I'm going to call South Carolina by 15 points. Give me South Carolina by 15 over Clemson.
You know, I don't know if it was the Cockvember. I don't know if it was after mentioning Cockvember that you said the Cocks were going to ram through the Tigers. There were a lot of things there, and then I don't know if it was that you chose South Carolina by 15 points in this game. Look, you know what? Freddie dropped a stat. I'm going to drop a couple more on you. Neither of these teams, or well, hold on. Since 2013, this is the first time both teams have been ranked in this matchup. Since 2012, this is the first time they were in one ranking of each other. In 2012, Clemson was number 12 and South Carolina was number 13. During that time, since 2014 till now, so around a decade, removing the 2020 COVID game, South Carolina's only won this game once, though. They've gotten to the end of the season. They have not performed well, and in that one game, they only beat Clemson by 1 point. Which let's tap into when that year was. That was 2022, when everybody seems to think that Michigan gave South Carolina the information on Clemson so they would not make it into the college football playoffs. So, did South Carolina really win that game? You don't know.
Allegedly.
But I'm not a fan of Shane Beamer. I don't think Shane Beamer's a great coach. I think he is just a lot of hats and dubs coming out of the magic tricks. I'm just not sold on him at all. What I am sold on is Lenore Sellers. I think Lenore Sellers is a human above humans, can fly around. He's supposed to be what Jalen Milroe was supposed to be this year. Kid has an enormous arm. Honestly, if you look at South Carolina's schedule, they lost to LSU early on this year. That's not on Beamer. Lenore Sellers late in that game. If he would not have gotten hurt late in that game, that's a win. Ole Miss, you just got drummed. That's Ole Miss. Alabama might have been more on Beamer on that one. You lose by 2, and Tuscaloosa, you had a shot to win that one. You could be looking at a 10-1 South Carolina team right now in the college football playoffs currently as we stand, but they're not. Anyway, Dabo and them have done a great job this season. Cade Klubnik's done a really good job this season. But as of late, they've played really bad games. Pitt, they barely escaped that one, 24-20. You barely escaped Virginia Tech, 24-14. You lose to Louisville, all in the last 4 games. Like, those are not beautiful games. And we thought that they would come out after losing to Georgia 34-3, that they would just be this otherworldly ACC team competing. But it's just, we've been shown the recipe by Dabo since the end of Trevor Lawrence and since the start of the transfer portal, that he's just not willing to mend his ways. As much as this stabs me in the heart, I'm taking South Carolina. I'm riding. Cockvember is in full effect. I'm with Quinn, Lenore Sellers, and the South Carolina Gamecocks are going to storm into Clemson like it's D-Day and absolutely ram the Clemson Tigers. Give me the South Carolina Gamecocks. Brett?
And I want to add this right before Freddie goes. You brought up Clemson dominating the series since 2014. It's important to remember that since then, that's a post-Spurrier world where South Carolina was spiraling, trying to find a coach. And simultaneously, 2015 through 2020 is like the best, most dominant years of Clemson football ever. Yep. So, take that for what it is worth.
Dear YouTube, I am sorry. Do not strike this video for the words that have been said. It's all in relative terms to the game. No, sorry. I just had to throw that in there for the YouTube algorithm and the AI technology that can catch some of this stuff. Give me South Carolina too, guys. They're the most deserving 3-loss team to be in the college football playoff to me.
Yep.
And I think it's a deadgum shame that LSU game got taken from them and in the way that it did. Because we're looking at a completely different SEC standings. We're looking at a completely different playoff standings. And we're looking at one of the greatest coaching years, I would say, that kind of came out of nowhere. Rivaled this year between Arizona State, right? And what they're doing. South Carolina, man, they were like, I think their over-under was 4 wins. 4 preseason. And here they are with a chance to get to 9 and possibly 10 with a bowl game. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. Clemson, on the other hand, after getting blown out by Georgia in week 1, kind of strung together some wins and then got beat by Louisville, as we know. and then have kind of coasted along since then. Meanwhile, South Carolina is on a 6-game win streak, 5-game win streak. It's been phenomenal. But the guys over at Three Bold Takes, we're all going South Carolina in this one. Hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
All right, guys, we are going to wrap everything up with our predictions this week as we head out to what is objectively the best named rivalry game in the sport. We got Farmageddon in Ames, Iowa, between the Kansas State Wildcats and the Iowa State Cyclones. Iowa State, a 2.5-point favorite. Massive implications on the outside perimeter of the Big 12 here. Obviously, with Colorado's loss and BYU's loss, it's really kind of opened the field back up. Chase, how are you feeling about this matchup between the Cyclones and the Wildcats in Farmageddon? Again, best name in the sport, hands down.
Yeah, actually, that might be the best name in sport. Quinn, I'm not going to lie to you. That actually is really good. Haven't heard that one before. If you're new to the channel, you've been watching for a while, I always say it. Quinn somehow knows every single named rivalry there is in college sports. You have a question, leave it in the comments. Quinn will tell you sooner or later. It's insane that he knows these things. I never would have guessed. Anyway, two teams tell of two different seasons, honestly. Iowa State rose from the ashes out of nowhere. Nobody expected to have their stuff undefeated for a long period of time before losing their first game to Texas Tech in November. And then Kansas State, who we thought, hey, all these other powers are moving out of the way. No Texas, no Oklahoma. You really got to get over the hump of Utah, and Kansas State's dropped a few games that they shouldn't have. Losing to BYU and Houston, first of all, but then also losing to now, you guys didn't know, number one in the Big 12, Arizona State, just a couple weeks ago. So shout out to Arizona State and what they've done this season. But sorry, guys. Anyway, and this game's pretty interesting, though. I think it's another one that's got good implications. Iowa State still has a chance to move up and down, has a chance to play in the Big 12 championship game as well. Kansas State can play spoiler there. However, I just haven't seen a lot out of either of these teams on both sides. Kansas State has lost a couple of these mediocre games that they shouldn't have, and Iowa State's played a lot close. I'm going to probably ride here with the Wildcats. I think their defense usually is in place enough to where they can compete in these games. The offense doesn't have to do way too much to win these games. Iowa State's played a lot close. Yes, they're ranked. Yes, they've had a good season. But when you look at who they've played a lot of the lower tier teams. Later on, they beat Iowa. That's the most significant one early on in the season. But besides that, they played Kansas, who they lost to. But at that point, I think it was like 2-6, 2-7. Cincinnati, Utah, UCF. Like a lot of those teams have since, who we thought was gonna be a really tough schedule, has since fallen off a little bit. For me, I'm gonna hold on to Kansas State and the Wildcats. I think they get it done in this Farmageddon matchup, like Quinn mentioned.
Yeah, I think this game is going to come down to a couple things. Obviously, for Kansas State, it's going to be Avery Johnson and how he plays. When you look at the season so far for him, obviously they got demolished by BYU, fourth game of the year. He only had 130 passing yards. They had less than 100 yards rushing as a team. BYU just straight up manhandled them. However, they did get 14 points off of some fluky plays, so you could take that into account as well in that one. Against Houston, Johnson had 238 passing yards, but again, 50 yards rushing in the game. You look at Arizona State, they lost 24-14. Johnson 258 passing yards. You ran for a little bit better, 133 yards on the ground. I think in this game, listen, Kansas State was my pick to win the Big 12. Okay, that didn't work out. None of our picks for the Big 12 is going to work out in this game. I am going to stick with my pick here. I think Iowa State's fallen off ever since their hot start. I'm going to go Kansas State to win. And after, they beat the brakes off of Cincinnati, 41-15, 150 passing yards from Johnson, 150 odd rushing yards for them on the ground. I think that's the key. If they can run the ball and not have to rely on Avery Johnson to have to throw the ball to win, I think we've got a bloodbath on our hands for Kansas State. I'm not going to predict that, but I think Kansas State wins by a solid 7 points in this game.
Look, there's no secret about me here. I have a deep, deep love for the Iowa State Cyclones that resides way down here in my heart. 30-year dynasty with the Clones on NCAA 14. I'm very proud of that fact. 29 straight BCS national championships. What does that have to do with real life? Absolutely nothing. But it does mean that when I look at any game, I look at it with scarlet and yellow glasses on. And I think the Clones have got a dominated win over Iowa early in the year, big win on the Cyhawk Trophy. And this is your other major rivalry game. You win it, you got a shot at the Big 12 title game and a chance to put yourself back in the playoff picture in a season where no one talked about Iowa State as a playoff caliber team because frankly they're not. Nobody in the Big 12 is, but that's a discussion for another day. Um, Look, I'm taking Iowa State, and the reason I'm taking Iowa State in this game, home field advantage. All right, scarlet and yellow glasses. All right, and then Kansas State, man, they are inconsistent. They show up and they play poorly against teams. Like, who thought that Kansas State was going to struggle so bad with Houston? All right,
Yeah.
Houston's terrible. So yeah, I like the Cyclones to get it done in a big rivalry game with a lot on the line for them. Whereas Kansas State's just kind of meandering at the end of their season. If this game was in Manhattan, we'd be having a different discussion. But with it being in Ames, I'm taking the Clones to get a win.
Hey, one last thing here. Shout out my father-in-law. He is a Kansas State fan from Kansas, and he told me today, "Hey, did you know Kansas State has the same record as Alabama?" So,
Oh, fun.
little
Yeah.
gloating there. So shout
Yeah.
out you.
Not the same schedule, I would add, but same record, yes. So that being said, guys, we got two Kansas State, one Iowa State here in the Farmageddon predictions. Remember to use our code 3BoldTakes to get 20% off your first purchase with SeatGeek. I've been Quinn, joined with Freddie and Chase, and we're out of here. All right, guys. Next up on the docket, Saturday, noon. Big noon kickoff. In fact, we got the game. Michigan travels into Ohio State. Man, how long has it been now since Ohio State got a win in this game?
In 3 years, I think. On the
I
board.
thought it was,
I think it's
yeah, I
4.
mean, it's
It's
four.
4.
Yeah,
Might
21,
be.
22, 20, no, 21, 22, 23. Last time
It's gonna
they
be
got
4,
him was,
right?
it's close to four. It's getting really close to four. The game's coming back into Ohio Stadium. Ohio State 20 and a half point favorites over the team that has beat them 3 years in a row. What are you thinking, Chase? Where are you leaning?
Yeah. So actually, a cool fun fact: this is the first three-peat wins for Michigan in this game since the '90s, since '95 through '97. So, and if you have to go for 4, you have to go all the way back to the '80s for that one. So look, man, I said it really boldly in the summer, and I've stuck to it all year. Michigan is not the team that they were going to be coming in. I want to say that it's a lot on the players, but it's a lot on the coaching as well. I mean, you started a walk on kid for the first 3 4 weeks of the season, and was like, you know what, we can still compete for national championships. No, no, you couldn't. And you found out very quickly you couldn't. Michigan's not been the same team. They kind of went away from who they were last year to this year. Just miserable losses, losing to Illinois, losing to Washington, and then you lost a close one to Indiana as well, who you thought you could beat. This is going to be, hopefully, should be a bloodbath. However, I will say Ohio State has been extremely entitled to who they are this year. If anybody watched kind of the post reactions to beating Kurt Signetti and the Indiana team, everybody in the nation knew Ohio State was going to win that game, and they should have. I think even Kurt knew that one going into that game. But the way Will Howard and a lot of that team acted after that game, just kind of like, like doing. Did y'all see the cigarette thing where he like took it out and put it on the ground, like rubbed it? Yeah, like that stuff. You're Ohio State, man. You should be beating these teams regardless of the number in front of them. We all knew Indiana wasn't a number 5 team in the nation, so it should be Ohio State. Would love to see Michigan stick it to them. But regardless, if you lose this game, keep the entire team, lose the head coach. That is it. Like Ryan Day's got to be gone if he loses this game. But as a 20.5 point spread, I don't think you do. I think this is going to be a 38-10 game in Ohio State's favor. So I'm going to go OSU and the Buckeyes.
Yeah, so in our previous video, it was Georgia Tech that we just got done shooting. I mentioned these rivalry games and when the spread is 20 plus, typically a team doesn't cover, and it's a good bet to go for the underdog. Not in this game. I think this is going to be a bloodbath. Personally, I think there's hatred on both sides here. Obviously, this is one of the biggest rivalries in the country in college football history. But when a team is far superior than the other, and there is this much hatred, I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State tried to score 100 points on. Now,
Yeah.
obviously they won't, but they're going to try to run the score up. This isn't going to be oh, we're up by 15, let's coast the way through. I don't think that's going to happen in this game, especially since you've lost to them 3 years in a row. Ryan Day needs to make a statement here, and I think Ohio State does it, and they win, and they not only win, but they cover the spread of 20.5.
Yeah, Freddie, I'm glad you brought that up when we were talking about how most rivalry games are super close and having big spreads is disrespectful. Not this one. This one has the perfect mix of circumstances to make it a blowout. Ohio State significantly better than Michigan this year. Michigan won this game for 3 years in a row. Game is in Ohio. It reminds me of 2008 2008 Alabama Auburn. Auburn was going to try to win their seventh straight. They were an average team. Alabama was number 1 or 2 in the country. Game was in Tuscaloosa. They absolutely destroyed Auburn in that game. It was awful. Won their first Iron Bowl in years. That's how this game feels. This is one of those games where if you're a Michigan fan, right, you want to put your kids at your grandparents' house with the TV turned off. And then when they come home, tell them bedtime stories about how the Wolverines fought valiantly and they almost got the Buckeyes, where in reality, they got like slaughtered and then their corpses were played with for 40 minutes. And then they burned everything as they walked off the field. Because this game is not going to be close. I'm expecting 40 something to 12. Like it's going to be bad. Ohio State is going to look to get every bit of anger out on Michigan this upcoming Saturday. Ryan Day knows. He's heard all this stuff about how he's lost to Michigan 3 years in a row. And despite double-digit win seasons every year and a playoff appearance where they almost beat Georgia during that time, and frankly would have, in my opinion, if Marvin Harrison didn't get injured, he knows. And he's going to put every bit of that into destroying Michigan on Saturday. So, yeah, give me Ohio State to just absolutely dominate in this game, make it completely unwatchable for anyone that isn't wearing scarlet and gray. I mean, it's going to be to the point where you got people who were victimized by the cheating scandal who are probably going to feel bad for Michigan because of what they're watching. Like, that's how this is going to go down. I 1000% believe it. Like, this game does not move the dial for me at all in terms of, oh, this is going to be competitive and fun to watch.
I'm gonna say this.
I
just want to say this. Chase, you brought up a good point. If Ryan Day somehow loses this game,
he's fired.
He shouldn't even be allowed back in the locker room post game. They should fire him on the field. Take off your hat, take off your shirt. You're going cold, all right? Because you can't wear the Ohio State logo anymore.
You know, and I hope they take a plane from Columbus to Columbus just so they can go to the tarmac and leave behind the bay like Lane Kiffin was left at USC. Like there's no possible, definitely first year head coach Sharon Moore. Like there's no possible way you can lose the game at all. Just at all. No ifs and buts about it.
Yeah, no, he loses this game, he will be fired. That is 1000%. Michigan could be actually good this year, and if he loses this game, he would be fired. Like that's what he's at right now. You can't lose 4 games in a row in the game. Not at Ohio State, not a team that has dominated this rivalry ever since the turn of the millennium. Like you start in 2000 and go to now, I think Michigan's won the game like 4 or 5 times. Like it has been overwhelmingly Ohio State. So yeah, you're 100% right about that, Freddie. He loses, he can kiss this job goodbye. But guys, I think that's going to do it for our coverage on the game. Make sure you watch all of our other videos we're doing this week on predictions for the college football season. Our pick prediction race is really neck and neck, especially I know Freddie and I are straight up tied right there at the top. Chase is like, what, 3 games behind in
Yeah.
total. So we got a lot coming for you for the rest of this week and through the bowl season. Remember to use our code 3BoldTakes for 20% off your first purchase with SeatGeek. And that being said, we've been 3 Bold Takes, Freddie, Chase, Quinn, and we're out of here.
Guys, it is time to talk about a rivalry game that we have not seen since 2011. That is the Lone Star Showdown between Texas and Texas A&M. Winner goes to the SEC championship game to play none other than Georgia, who's already clinched. Texas A&M obviously coming off a loss at Auburn. Wow, I still cannot believe that stunner. I picked that one right, but I didn't actually think that it would happen. It was kind of just a knee-jerk reaction pick. But in this game here, this 6:30 ABC, all right, Texas comes in as a 5.5-point favorite in the game. This is for all the marbles of the SEC. Can Texas come in year one, in the SEC, win the conference, and potentially get a first-round bye? We don't know, but it starts this Saturday against Texas A&M. Chase, you got the Texas hat on, man. I want you to go first.
I'm excited about this one. I love this one. It's a rivalry game. It's a renewed rivalry game. And then also, it has implications for the college football playoffs. If you've been watching the college football playoff rankings, we've already seen that they will drop people 7, 8, 9, 10 spots if they want to. And they'll also let some people jump 3, 4 spots. So either way, we could see Texas potentially drop out here in the last week. We could see Texas A&M jump in. All the marbles are on the table, like Freddie mentioned, in a game that has not been played in 13 years. Wow, I am excited. Texas A&M's last time, November 24th, 2011 at home. You lose by 2 points to finish out this rivalry as Texas A&M moved on to the SEC. The last time that these two teams probably thought that they would play for a very, very extended time period. And here we are again in 2024. We have the, gentlemen, just think about that. In 2011, we were all 10, 11, 12 years old. And now as grown men, we have the privilege to sit here and be able to watch this game. You know, let's just take it in. Anyway, guys, I'm stoked. Texas A&M has had a wonderful season this year. I think they've dropped the ball here in the last few weeks, and I'll tell you why. They lose to South Carolina. Of course, they shouldn't have lost that game. They were like, oh man, we're the best team in the nation, and they were at one point leading the SEC. And then you lose to South Carolina at South Carolina. But this team at home is one of the best teams in the nation. Only losing to Notre Dame at home. Both of the other losses on the road. Almost came back and beat Auburn as well. I think at one point they were down 28-7, 21-7. It wasn't pretty for Texas A&M. Everybody thought they were done for. And Auburn almost coughed that game up as normal. But they get Texas at home, man. Let's go ahead. Hey, Texas gets to walk into College Station. Quinn Ewers, they've played decent this year, but they also are kind of like the Indiana of the SEC. They haven't really played much of anybody, and when they have, they've struggled. Georgia, they struggled. If you want to count Vandy, they struggled. And the other mid-tier, lower-tier SEC teams, Arkansas, Kentucky, they've played decent, but they haven't played like hey, this is a top 3 team in the nation in Texas. Texas A&M gets them at home. Texas A&M hasn't played this game in 13 years, like Texas. However, the last time they played was at College Station. For 13 years, you've been tasting the 2 points that Texas has over you. You've just been tasting the big brother, or actually the little brotherness of this rivalry. Like, this is who you want to be? You don't. We're going Texas A&M, folks. Texas A&M is going to win this game and win it handedly. Elko, his ego is going to be on top-notch, full display. Texas loses this game. And they're going to be shown why Texas is not a top 3 team in the nation. Give me Texas A&M as they jump back into the college football playoffs after this game, gentlemen.
Yeah, wow. Chase, you hit on some of the big things I want to talk about. 13 years since we've seen this rivalry get played. A&M kind of fills the little brother role of this rivalry. I think a win in this means way more to them than it does Texas. Not that it doesn't mean a lot to Texas. It's just Texas's biggest rival is Oklahoma. Okay, A&M's biggest rival is Texas. They want this win so bad. Kyle Field is going to be the best atmosphere in college football this season, period. what we see in Kyle Field on Saturday night will be the best atmosphere we've seen in college football. Those fans, they don't sit down the whole game. When halftime comes, they don't go get popcorn. They stay in their seats and they watch the band. They don't leave. They just stay there. It's the most dedicated, intense crowd you've ever seen. Everything is lining up for a huge A&M upset. They still get to go to Atlanta. They have a chance to upset Georgia and get back into the playoffs despite this terrible loss to Auburn. They're the only one out of the three SEC teams to lose this past weekend, A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama, who can still get their way back into the playoff conversation despite having three losses. All right. Have y'all ever heard of battered Aggie syndrome?
BAS. Wow.
You don't get something like that without that being a real thing.
Oof.
You have everything in front of you. The crowd's going to be wild. I think A&M's going to start hot. And somehow, some way, Texas is going to rip the heart out of the chest of every single fan in College Station and waltz their way to a rematch with Georgia. So give me the Longhorns in a devastatingly sad loss for A&M, but one that should be ultimately expected when you know the history of this program.
Wow, so we've got one guy going Texas A&M and Chase, one guy going Texas at Quinn. I think I'm the deciding factor here in this democracy that is three bold takes here. Texas A&M, look, if they would have just, I don't even care how they played against Auburn, if they just would have won the game, it'd be a completely different pick for me. But the fact that Elko came into the Auburn game saying that they were focused on Auburn, and then proceeded to lose, that sets a bad precedent, right, for the team. Now, hey, if they're focused on Texas, cool. All right, if you're scheming for Texas all week in practice because you know that Texas is far superior to Auburn and you're not really concerned about what Auburn can do offensively, that's one thing. But to openly say it and make a mistake is a completely different thing. And that's why I think the head and mind of this Texas A&M team is going in the wrong direction. That is a heartbreaking loss. You drop a 2-point conversion in the third overtime, whatever it was, in the hands, and you lose. The Auburn storms the field. Big deal. You're not winning the next week. Give me Texas to win this game. I think they win by 10 plus points against Texas A&M. I don't think Texas A&M at this point in the year now this sounds weird. I don't think at this point in the year they're an 8-3 football team. The way that they're playing, that they're not playing like a team that has a chance to make the SEC title and the playoffs. I think they're playing more like a 7-5 type team right now. To be honest, but give me Texas to win. Now, big deal here that we didn't even talk about. Quinn Ewers is getting an MRI on his ankle as he went out in their last game. I'm not sure his status or what the deal is with that. Again, we record on a Sunday, so not a lot of information after the game just happened yesterday. Obviously, the information will probably come out by the time you watch this video, so keep that in mind whenever you watch this and think about our picks. So we've got 2 for Texas, 1 for A&M. Huge game this weekend. I hope you guys enjoy watching that. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. This has been fun to make. Obviously, this is our first time ever talking about this game in this capacity because it's been so long. So I hope you guys are excited. Hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk soon.
Welcome on in, guys. This is one of my favorites here, guys. One of my golden teams, one of my teams that, I think I've put up on a pedestal in my room and just shrouded and just all the love and glory that they deserve this season. The America's team, Chase's team, even. The Vanderbilt Commodores are hosting the Tennessee Volunteers, guys. And I don't even know what the name of this rivalry is. I don't even care. It doesn't matter. But I'm just excited about it, guys. As Vandy hosts Tennessee, it's going to be 11 a.m. on Saturday. So you're going to have your turkey and ham on Thanksgiving on Thursday. You're going to go shopping on Friday. Probably have some more leftovers on Saturday. And as you do, just buckle in. 11 a.m. You can sit down and watch this beautiful game Tennessee is a 12-point favorite here. The over-under is 48.5. And honestly, it's kind of a little disrespectful to Diego Pavia and the team. Quinn, what do we think, buddy?
Well, I'll tell you this. Luckily for Vandy, they're playing this game in Neyland West and not Neyland East. So they're only going to be in front of a Tennessee crowd of about 30,000 instead of 100,000. So that's helpful. And then for number two, I couldn't tell you the name of this rivalry game. No one cares about this rivalry game. It is a rivalry game in name only. When you own over 80% of the victories in the rivalry game, it's not a rivalry game. I'm looking at you, Oklahoma State. Don't try to convince me Bedlam's a really good rivalry game. It's not. And this one falls under the same like category to me. Look, Vandy can make some noise. Tennessee struggles in first halves of games, and I think that's just who they are at this point. They've done it in every single game of the season. So if Vandy comes out striking hot and heavy early, then Tennessee could be looking up and in trouble as Diego Pavia sits there in all of his glory, doing his little Superman actions and paying tribute to Johnny Manziel. But I think the Vandy train died when they got absolutely gobsmacked by South Carolina. That kind of ended the whole Vandy hype train thing a little bit for me. They played a derailed and dysfunctional LSU and lost that game. So, if you couldn't strike LSU when they're a corpse on the ground, I don't know if you're really going to strike Tennessee when they know that they're in a situation that is one win, college football playoff. Here we come for the Tennessee Vols. One loss, and it's starting to look like maybe only two SEC teams get in. All of a sudden, we were talking about like a bunch of them and who's going to get left out. To they may only put two of these guys in at the end of the day. So we'll see when that time comes. But for the game itself, I'm going to say Vandy jumps out early, takes like I'm going to say 10-3 lead into the half. Tennessee hangs 17 to get the job done. Let's say 20-13 Tennessee at the end.
So for this, here's what I've noticed about Vandy. They're a team that cannot play from behind very well. So in order for them to have a chance to win this game, they're going to have to start hot and or rely on Tennessee starting slow, which they have done a lot this year. I could see a situation where if Vandy goes up 14-0, it may stay that way the whole game, where they stay up 14 or they stay up 10 or something along those lines. Because, again, Vandy shines on ball control and just not letting you score points, right? I mean, if you even look at like their games, Auburn's a great example, 17-7, low scoring game, ball control heavy game. They ended up winning that game. You look at Texas, 27-24. I mean, they held Texas to 27. That's a pretty good day for your defense if you're Vanderbilt. Obviously, they did beat Alabama, right? Now, the South Carolina game, that's a tough one. That is a really, really tough loss. And I'm there with you, Quinn. Hype train kind of died whenever they lost that game. Then they traveled to LSU and lost 24-17. So, what could have been a historic season for Vanderbilt over the past 5 weeks has turned into your pretty average Vandy team, right? Because if they lose this game, they're 6-6. Granted, their over/under win total at the beginning of the year was 3.5, so they crushed that out the water. So they killed expectations, but overall, an average season. I think Tennessee wins, but I think it's going to be an extremely tight game. I think it's going to end up being just like the Texas game, a 3-point loss probably here. Another heartbreaker at home. I think Vandy may even have a chance to win the game at the end, and they fall a little bit short. I just think Tennessee is overpowered in that regard. But this is a game that I'll keep track of, quite frankly, because it's not your average Vandy team that you've seen in years past. But give me Tennessee to win.
Man, this is a fun one, guys. America's team, America's boy Diego Pavia. This is just a great one to watch all the way through. And I said back in the offseason on I think just a bold video that we shot and was saying, "Hey, Vanderbilt's going to win 7 games this year." I did. Both of these guys on here,
You did.
eyes wide, mouths open, were like, "There is no possible way Vandy's going to win 7 games." And I said, "And look, they're sitting here, week 14, staring at rivalry week. There we go." And looking at Tennessee saying, "Hey, we have one shot to win 7 games. Your best finish since that nasty, nasty man, James Franklin, left your program. The best finish that you could have since 2013 when they won 9 games. Here it is against, again, we don't even know the name of this rivalry, so is it really a rivalry? But the one thing I'm hearing, I'm listening to a lot of things right now. Chase, do you have voices? We're just gonna pass by that. But I'm hearing spoiler, gentlemen. I'm hearing spoiler. I'm hearing it a lot. Vandy. I mean, honestly, what do you have to play for? You're already going to a bowl game. You're not going to a national. You're not about to play in the SEC championship game. But what can you do? Spoil those gaudy, ugly orange jerseys from the chance of going to the playoffs when they thought they were going to get back in after Alabama and Texas A&M and everybody lost. Here's your opportunity, Vandy. You can do it. Diego, you can be the Superman superhero that we all think you are. It's not going to happen. I'm going to go with Tennessee in this game.
Dang, Chase.
I was super excited. I still think Vandy gets the 7 wins. I think they do it in their bowl game. Hopefully, they get a nice group of 5 matchup for them. I love Vandy's season, but I'm on the same lines with Quinn.
How disrespectful.
The South Carolina game really hurt my heart. I thought South Carolina was a pretty 55-45 kind of game. Like it was nearly even. I thought Vandy could pull that out when they did not at home, and then they also lost to a reeling LSU. It's just not going to happen. You could have been a 9-win team this season, but now you're sadly going to fall to a 6-6 team on this season. I think Tennessee pulls away late. One of those trash touchdowns in the last 5 minutes that makes it like 27-14, 27-13, something like that. So, Vandy, hats off to you this season. We love you. You are America's team for this year and this year alone. But sadly, it has to end somewhere, and it's going to stop here. For the guys at 3 bold takes, though, Quinn, Chase, and Freddie, this is a sad farewell to this video as we remember Vandy and their time this season. Toodaloo, as always, and thank you for watching.